welcome back. I'm Tedward and welcome to the 2026 Acura MDX Type S. This is the second year since the facelift, and for the first time I'm getting a chance to actually live with the vehicle. I've done about 400 miles in this vehicle over the past week, and unlike when I first drove the facelifted 2025 in Southern California, where I was really just exploring its sportiness and performance prowess, this has really enlightened me to what this would be like as a daily driver. And what I love about this new flagship Acura, because the TLX Type S is dead, is that it doesn't really resemble the Honda that it's based on. This doesn't feel like a Honda Pilot. It's very easy to look at the Integra or the ADX and think, oh, it's a Civic in an HRV with nicer interiors and different styling, whereas this MDX Type S really feels like a special car. You could own a Pilot and an MDX Type S and they would feel different. Now, one of the biggest things about this is this engine. The J30AC is a single turbo 3-liter V6. That twin scroll turbo keeps torque on tap all the time. It's quite responsive, but because you can't get this in the Pilot or any other vehicle at this point, this feels pretty darn special. The Type S is not cheap. This one comes in around $78,000 after this double Apex Blue adds $600, and you also add the $1,400 destination charge. But the Type S is not simply a style package with some luxury features. No, you get performance upgrades, most notably that engine, and you also get 4-piston Brembo brakes up front and the air suspension, which I think is actually the real star of the show here, despite the fact that I do like the J30. Practicality wise, this is a 3-row SUV, and by the numbers, this is actually the most sold 3-row SUV ever, I think is what they said. So that's actually kind of shocking. Now the rear seats, there's only 2 seats back here, but still reasonable space for stuff. When I put the 3rd row up in my GX460, there's almost no space back here. When you have these guys up, you still have plenty of cargo room to actually put the bags. I mean, if you're going to transport this many people, you probably have stuff, right? So that's really nice. I've been using this to transport my bike, and I've taken it out to some trails, and it's been fantastically convenient. I, of course, put down a packing blanket because we want to protect that leather on the back side of the 2nd row. In the rear, massive doors. This is a long wheelbase vehicle, longer than you would actually think. The style of the MDX shrinks it a little bit, but when you stare at it, you realize just how big it actually is. Back here, tons of legroom, quite comfortable rear seats, and they recline. I believe they even move forward and aft, which is lovely. And right here, this is nice. Chances are you're probably not stuffing 3 people across here very frequently, and you get a lovely locked armrest with cup holders. Now, the rear passengers get outboard 3-stage heated seats. They get HVAC controls and a vast, vibrant moonroof that spans across the whole thing. Now, the beauty of this is it actually is able to be covered, so you're not relying on some trick tint. A lot of vehicles these days are not giving you the sunshade, and they just give you a tinted glass up top, and it'll still bake you, especially if you live in like Arizona, Nevada, or Southern California. So I like that they did not overlook that. Quality is the name of the game, and even the way the doors open and close feel pretty premium, and I love that these are actually mechanical door handles. They're not trying to play this game of an electronically actuated door handle that releases a latch. No, and living with this, that's been my favorite thing. It's not even a hybrid, because yes, you could look at this price point and you could start looking at BMW X5, you could look at Lexus RX. The RX is probably for the consumer that's looking for a plug-in hybrid. The BMW is someone who needs to have those power figures or wants a lot of little specific options. But this is for somebody who's looking for an incredibly well-rounded package and doesn't need to be the big dog on the block. This makes 355 horsepower, about the same amount of torque, I think 354. The only gripe I have is when you open this hood, there's no fanfare under here. Yes, you can visibly see this twin scroll turbo. This engine cover is just a little dull, and And I think this car warrants a little more excitement when you open the hood, kind of like the Civic Type R. When you open the hood of the Civic Type R, at least you get the red cover. I know it doesn't mean anything, but it would be cool if this looked a little more special under here, but chances are you're not gonna have to open it because it's reliable. It's a Honda. The front of this car, I think the styling is just on point. It's been described to me as a soccer mom car for dads, and I can't think of a better description for this. If you say that, you know exactly what you mean. This Acura logo may be a little excessive, and it was a little silly when I first saw it, but it's growing on me. But overall, I always look back at it. I think style-wise, this has really hit the mark. It's not super futuristic like a lot of automakers are going for right now. For whatever reason, we're in some bizarro world where cyberpunk insanity seems to be the name of the game, whereas this just takes classical styling cues and there's shapes to it. I love that this hood has actual shapes. I love that these doors have great lines on them and trim pieces. That's been going away because I think everybody's just trying to save money on manufacturing. When you look at the slab side Mercedes, I'm convinced that all those designs are made so they can get more presses out of their tooling, not so it looks better. Whereas this Type S, I think, just looks the part. Gluing us to the road on a 21-inch wheel is a 275 section tire all around, and behind there you can see the Acura labeled Brembo 4-pot stoppers, and I think that's the reason to get the Type S. Is while it is not a track start, you do get more power, you get a bespoke engine, you get the suspension with air ride, and you get these brakes. And overall, that's a great package. But the real things that are going to sell you on this car is if you have a friend who gives you a ride in one or you drive one, you're going to realize really quickly this is more luxurious than you ever anticipated. This one has this red interior. I would likely go with the Orchid. I think the Orchid is probably more suitable, especially for the double apex blue paint, but that's all right. Let's get it started up. Ultra quiet. Down here is our control stack. So we've got our shifter here, which I'm not the biggest fan of, and I'll pull out some little gripes. None of these are deal breakers for me. This is what we saw in NSX and Honda Pilot. I just don't love this because I would prefer to have a stick shift to shift my gears because it's more intuitive. If I'm backing up and I'm looking over my shoulder or staring at the screen and then I need to go into drive, I do have to look for this button. I don't want to look for the button, but I do, and it's something that you'll get used to very, very quickly, but just a minor gripe. The other thing is they did such a great job of packaging the HVAC controls and the ventilated, heated, and massage seats. Yeah, massage seats, guys. So, and they're good massage seats. These won't hurt you, but they're not just like weak little presses. That actually does the job, which is kind of rare in the auto industry. It feels like they go very conservative on the massage seats, and they're very happy to tell you that they have them, but they don't really do much. These are glorious. But this packaging, while you do have the ability to, hit these buttons to change your temperature, these are the buttons that annoy me a little bit, just because I would rather have the 3 knobs set up. Now, I know it doesn't quite work with the rest of it, but I have to look. So if I have this HVAC system on, I actually have to take my eyes off the road to check for this fan speed button or to check for the ventilation seat or the heated seat or the massage seat buttons. I have to look. And anytime you have to look for something in your car, that's your eyes off the road. However, great to know that you have Acura Watch, which is going to help you determine if there's traffic coming. It'll beep at you. You also get this great lane assist with ACC, adaptive cruise control. It all works really, really well in here. So, I can complain about these little things, but they are, in fact, little things. I have to mention them if we're talking about a full review on a vehicle. So let's get it out on the road because I think it's important to drive driver's cars, and that's one of the nicest things about this is it does feel like a driver's car. Into drive. We have not been kicked out of here, which is fantastic. Actually, you know what I'm going to show you too is because we're on this grass. I don't know if there's any potholes on here, but I'm going to lift the vehicle. So it's going to give us extra ground clearance. And look at that. This also has the Google built in, and my favorite feature of all time is this trip computer in all these Hondas where it tells you the current drive MPG. But let's slip our way out of here. It is so difficult to find a filming location in certain parts of Massachusetts. So I came here, hoped for the best, and nobody on a tractor came and kicked me out. So that I will consider as a win. We'll go back into comfort mode. Now this 10-speed, yes, 10-speed automatic transmission, I like it because it's not particularly sporty, but it's not laggy or lame. Like, you almost don't notice it. And that's as good as you can ask for, unless you're going for the BMW M style thing. So let's get these windows up. We're gonna go into Sport Plus, and we're gonna enter the highway. I hesitated a little bit there just because I don't know that on-ramp. There is a guardrail that leaves you no room for error. And my only gripe performance-wise with the MDX Type S is it's a little nose heavy. It's kind of a nose pushy car. You have to just manage the nose. And that's what I noticed when I was out in California driving this car. But it has super handling, all-wheel drive. It's rear biased, so it's not like some of these lame all-wheel drive systems that just powers the front wheels and adds power to the rear when it senses slip. No, this sends up to 70% of that power to the rear wheels, and then the super handling part of it means that it can torque vector across both sides of that rear axle. So it can send up to 100% of the 70% of that power to the right or the left. That's critical for corner exit. It's really nice if you were ever stuck in a situation where it just was slipping on ice or whatever. I mean, it really can do some pretty impressive things, and that's wonderful. In Sport Plus, we get the tachometer across the top. You get this speedo down here, which it's actually kind of difficult to read if you're looking at the gauge versus the just, simple readout, because it goes in 40-mile-per-hour increments. It's very difficult to understand what's going on in 40-mile-per-hour increments. And then over here you've got boost pressure. But let's get this back into comfort mode, because here's the thing. My mistake in reviewing this car when it came out in California was I reviewed it as a performance car. I reviewed it as if I was reviewing a BMW M car. And it isn't. It is a luxury car with sporting chops. And now that I understand that, now that I've kind of lived with it and used it as a daily driver, it makes so much more sense to me. And I enjoy it more. Because if I purely looked at this as something that needs to perform like a Honda Civic Type R, oh boy, will I be frustrated. But when I drive it around like a normal human being, as if I had kids in the car, as if I was not a performance enthusiast like I am, it is so intuitive, and it has such a wonderful character in this engine that I'm never really wanting for more. There are cars out there that have more power, and this, honestly, this chassis could handle 100 more horsepower. Nice smooth upshifts. But I'm starting to realize it doesn't need to have 100 more horsepower. It actually is balanced. And that's such a Honda thing to do. They never, ever, ever tackle superlatives. They're never the most powerful in their class. They're always about a well-rounded driving experience. So even though you could look at other brands and say, oh, they have more power, they have more this, they have more that, I would encourage you to drive the Honda variants of all those competitors, because sometimes, even though it may look like it has less and even maybe costs a little more, sometimes this is the driving experience you're actually looking for, at least for me. Now, out on the highway, boy, am I getting terrible fuel economy. And it doesn't get great fuel economy. I've managed around 20 to 21 miles per gallon driving it to work and back, and very conservatively. This is the most I've pushed this car, just for you guys, because I want you to hear this engine and enjoy it. But it is unfortunately only an 18.5 gallon tank that gets around 20 miles per gallon, and the range is a bit dismal. That's kind of a bummer, because it would be nice if this could comfortably do like 400 or 415, 420 miles on a tank. It's more likely that you're going to get around 300 to 350. Now, I can survive that in my Civic Type R. In this, it just feels a little silly how much gas it's pulling down. Welcome to Purgatory Chasm. This is a landmark in central Massachusetts. It's these crazy rock formations from glacial melt, and everything got pushed away, and I probably can't describe it to you as well as Wikipedia can. But it's a beautiful spot. It's incredibly dangerous. There are cliffs. People do some crazy rappelling and rock climbing here. However, you do need to keep your wits about you here, because people bring their little kids, and there are no guardrails. There are just giant cliffs that you could very easily fall off. But I thought I'd take you through here to kind of illustrate too how quiet and serene the cabin is. They made it quieter for 2025. They added more insulation over the wheel wells and the rear doors, and I believe even the rear windows get an extra layer to remove some of that road noise. But this is more luxurious than I think anybody anticipated from the MDX. In terms of inputs and tactility, the steering has really managed to be incredibly light and easy while not being vague to the touch. I do understand what's going on when I make inputs. That's a very tricky thing to do, and that tells me that the people at Honda, the engineers, are drivers, that they understood the assignment. The throttle mapping is fantastic, and it's tuned differently in every mode, and it makes sense in every mode. There's paddle shifters. I almost never use them because the transmission tune is quite accurate and good. I don't have to ask it to do things. It's usually just doing what I wanted anyway. The brakes, I think, are the only thing you've got to adapt to a little bit because they're a bit touchy. Not a bad thing. They are formidable. They definitely can bring this thing down to a halt over and over and over and over again, which is really nice to see. Let's get into the Google Maps of it all. Go into normal mode. And by the way, if you hit this button in the center, it goes into your individual setting, but I don't really have my individual setting set, so we are just going to do this. Something I really respect about this is that it never really spins the tires. And I don't mean that because it doesn't have enough power to do it. I mean that because it manages to put the power down appropriately. I was just driving an Infiniti QX65 recently, and that is a front biased all-wheel drive system. And if I did that, if I came out of the hole with a little bit of steering lock and a lot of throttle, it would have spun up that inside front tire. And it feels cheap. It feels inexpensive when a car does that. It feels unbalanced. And when you get into the throttle on this MDX Type S, it puts the power down. It always utilizes whatever wheel it can to make sure that there's no chirping, there's no loss of power, you don't have some aggressive intervention of traction control system stopping you from going. It's those little interactions with a car where a computer stops you or you feel the computer system doing something that really bothers me, because it makes me feel like I'm asking for something that it cannot provide. It doesn't seem like a big ask to be able to turn and accelerate from a stop. This achieves the goal. Nice and slow. We don't want to run into a Lincoln. Lovely. So as you can see, we've got the heads-up display on right now. There's a simple brightness button down here that allows me to turn it up or turn it off. I love that I do not have to go through an infotainment screen to adjust this. Not to mention, if it's bright and I can see it, I can also tilt it and adjust where it is on the windscreen with the touch of a button. I don't have to go do anything fancy. That is really important, you guys, to not have to go through the infotainment screen to make simple changes to things that you just want to change immediately, whether it's your screen brightness or your heads-up display. Not being distracted by a complicated system of menus is probably the safest thing you can do in the automotive industry today. So when you give simple buttons and simple controls that are intuitively located, it makes all the difference in being safer. You have to spend time with this vehicle to really understand all the pieces of it, because things stand out little by little. Even the steering wheel, the size, the shape. There's little indents, basically, like a Formula One steering wheel. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but if you've ever driven an NSX, a newer NSX, rest in peace, it has the similar little cutouts back here, and it feels really good in the hand. Out here on the highway, following this Audi, we've got adaptive cruise control set, we've got the lane keep assist set. Now, this is not automated driving, it is requiring my hands to be on the steering wheel, but it's gonna bark at me in a second. I'm just keeping my hands here to demonstrate. Steering required. All I have to do is touch it. This has a capacitive touch setup. So Hondas, like my Civic Type R, require a force on the steering rack for it to recognize that you're there. This does not, and it is losing right now. It ping-pongs a little bit. I feel like it's kind of great in some situations, a little wonky in others, but at the end of the day, it is a lovely safety net to have when you need it. The Type S also has a 31 speaker Bang & Olufsen system that is insane. It sounds so good. This is one of the best out there in any car, really. And you can tell they put their whole heart and soul into rebranding as well, because Acura used to use ELS 3D Studio. Now the Bang & Olufsen system is even better than the ELS ever was, and it sounds phenomenal. But let's conclude this. I've been living with this for the last week, and I have enjoyed every mile. As much as I hate the SUV-ification of America, and I would rather we were driving TLX Type S or vehicles like that, this is really good. And you can tell that Acura really cares about their flagship. They want to make sure that this car matters. And it feels special. It especially feels special because it doesn't feel like simply a Honda Pilot with leather. And I love the Honda Pilot. I actually prefer the balance of the Honda Pilot, if I'm being honest, from a performance perspective. The only downside to the MDX Type S that I can see is that it's a little nose heavy in the corners. But when you reframe this car, if you take the Type S as a luxury trim level with a special engine, a special suspension, and luxury features, then it starts to make a lot more sense than trying to compare it against, say, an X5M, because it's just never going to hold that water. It's not going to work. Honda's products typically are not superlative on the numbers front, and they can often look a little bit expensive. But the real star of the show here is luxury, build quality, and style. And it's getting more and more difficult to find a proper engine out in the world. Most of these car companies are going with hybrid systems and then reducing displacement. This MDX allows you to get a turbocharged V6 with no hybrid system. Yes, you are going to pay the penalty in fuel economy because this does like to drink. You're only going to be getting somewhere in the real world realm of about 20 miles per gallon, maybe more if you have a very light foot, maybe less if you don't. And let's make sure. We're going past the zoo. We want to make sure they're not escorting a giraffe across the thing. No, they've got children just going real slow. We can't have that problem. What I love about this too is that its style, it's not overstated, it's not understated, it's not too futuristic. It looks like it'll last a while. It looks like something that you can buy and put 200,000-300,000 miles on. You could keep it for 10 years. It will probably always look pretty new. Unlike a lot of its competitors, which are seemingly going the route of extreme design. And I'm not a huge fan of it. Although Genesis, they're kind of killing it. If you are dissuaded from this car, or even looking at this car because, oh, it only makes 355 horsepower, whereas a base X5 makes, I think, 375, this is where I would encourage you to drive cars back to back. Again, this is Acura's flagship. This is the best thing they make. This is the car that makes the statement of their entire brand. That matters because if you go to BMW and you get a low or mid-tier X5, that's just a car to them. They sell a 7 Series. They sell an X7. They don't have to give you everything in the X5. Whereas in this car, Acura has to give you everything to prove their worth. And I think they've done it. Acura watch warning us. When this facelift came out, it didn't seem like people were all that interested. I think they thought it was expensive. And now that the market has shifted a little bit and it's even harder to find a non-hybrid thing that still feels like a car, that still has this quality, that still has normal door handles. Oh, there's Lieutenant Lugnut. We'll call him back. This is starting to look a little more special, and I think it will feel more special going forward. The same reason I bought the last of the V8 Lexus GX 460s is why I would consider an MDX Type S. It feels like the last of a generation and the last of a breed. So I'm going to go bring this back home. I hope this has helped you decide whether or not you even want to test drive one. I'd recommend it. I really enjoy spending time in this car. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.